let's talk about a huge shift that's happening right now in how we build our world. Our roads, our bridges, our cities, and honestly, it all starts with one single massive number.
Over 50%. Okay, it's a big number, for sure. But what in the world does it actually mean? Get this. That's the percentage of a project's entire carbon footprint that gets locked in before anyone ever drives on that road or works in that building. It all happens in the design phase, and it's a huge part of the carbon problem that we've kind of been ignoring.
And that right there brings us to what the industry is calling infrastructure's carbon blind spot. Turns out, for years, we might have been focusing on the wrong part of the puzzle.
So here's the deal. We've all heard about operational carbon, right? That's the energy a building uses for heating, cooling, lighting, all that stuff. But there's this other giant piece of the pie called embodied carbon, all of the emissions from making the concrete, shipping the steel, the actual construction, and that's the part we've been missing.
So why the blind spot? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. The old way of doing things was just too slow. By the time we could even calculate all that embodied carbon, the decisions were already set in stone, literally. The concrete was ordered, the steel was on its way. That window of opportunity to make a real change, it had already slammed shut.
And you could just imagine the process, right? It was a mess. Engineers were stuck doing manual data entry. All this critical info was trapped in different spreadsheets that didn't talk to each other. And the carbon assessment? That happened after the design was done. It was basically an autopsy. Any crucial insights were always too late to do any good.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. So what's the solution? Well, this is where a really powerful new concept called carbon intelligence comes into play.
Carbon intelligence completely flips the script. It's all about making carbon a core part of the design process from the very beginning. So instead of being this report you file away at the end of a project, carbon becomes a live, active variable you can play with, just like cost, or material strength, or safety. Here's a great way to think about it. We're shifting from looking in the rearview mirror at the carbon we've already created to actually looking at the road ahead. It's the difference between just reacting to your carbon footprint and actively designing it from scratch. And this new way of thinking lets designers ask these incredibly important questions in real time. Questions like, hey, what if we tweak this part of the design? Can we cut the emissions without blowing up the budget? I mean, getting an answer to that used to take weeks. Now, it can be almost instant. Or how about this one, which is huge? What if we swap this common material for a greener alternative? Is it still going to be strong enough? Is it safe? Carbon intelligence lets teams explore these trade-offs live, balancing sustainability with performance right there on the screen.
But, a brilliant idea is one thing. You need the tools to actually make it happen. And that's where we're seeing this amazing leap forward in making carbon data something you can actually use. These new software tools are the real game changers here. They do the boring work automatically, like calculating all the material amounts, and then boom, one click, you've got a carbon report. But what's really cool is how they let you see the data. We're talking 3D heat maps that show you exactly where the carbon hotspots are, right on your digital model. And that is the key. This is what finally bridges that massive gap between the ambition to be sustainable and the actual day-to-day engineering actions that make it a reality.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, the results are kind of staggering. That assessment process that took weeks, it's now down to hours. This means teams can weigh their options properly, they can spot the big carbon problems before a single thing gets built, and they can actually prove to clients and regulators, look, here are the measurable carbon reductions we achieved.
Now, let's be really clear. This isn't just about feeling good or being green. Adopting carbon intelligence is giving firms a real, tangible, strategic edge in a super competitive market.
And I mean it. This is where sustainability becomes smart strategy. In today's world, being able to design, measure, and deliver a low-carbon project isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a massive competitive advantage.
It really just boils down to this. Firms that get this right are simply in a better position to win. They can land those big clients who care about sustainability, they can easily navigate all the new environmental regulations, and they can even find ways to reduce material waste, which helps lower costs. It's a win-win-win.
So, where does all this lead? What's the big picture here? Well, it looks like we are entering a totally new era of design, one that's just fundamentally smarter about its impact on the world. For the longest time, there was this idea that you had to choose. You could have high performance or you could be sustainable.
But this new approach means that engineers and designers and the people who own these assets, they no longer have to make that choice. They can, and they absolutely should, design for both.
The days of just adding up our impact after it's too late, they're over. We are moving from being reactive to being proactive. And honestly, there's just no going back.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If we now have tools that let us see, touch, and shape the carbon footprint of a project from the very first sketch, has that old, reactive way of doing sustainability just become completely obsolete?